Professor Kavita Rao, and distinguished invitees. I am happy to be associated with the Golden Jubilee celebrations of National Institute of Public Finance and Policy. 50 years ago, in 1976, NIPFP was set up thanks to the vision and courage of Dr. Raja Challaiah, an eminent fiscal economist who had just returned from his assignment in IMF, and the then forward-looking Finance Minister, Mr. C. Subramaniam. Fiscal policy is an important tool of economic administration. Fiscal actions directly affect the income and expenditure stream. In a developing country like India, fiscal policy is a tool for both development and stability. Dr. Challaiah perceived the need for an institution like NIPFP to offer independent advice to governments at various levels on fiscal matters. The research studies of the Institute were expected to feed into policy making, and in fact, they actually did. From the tax reforms in the early 1990s and coming down to the recent introduction of GST, the institution did play a major role. I was chairman of NIPFP for 16 years between 1998 and 2014. I didn't realize that my stay was that long. During this period, I was also chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to Prime Minister. This, in some sense, also facilitated interaction between government and NIPFP. I recall that during that period, in terms of conferences, there was a big expansion of both domestic and international. International conferences are vehicles of transfer of knowledge and experience across countries. We had outstanding experts and scholars in public finance come to India. Training of civil servants working in finance departments at the center and at the state level widened. Besides, NIPFP also inducted programs to train academics working in the area of public finance. Thus, in the three areas of research, training, and involvement in policy making, NIPFP did good work. At the end of 50 years, NIPFP has built up a big reputation as a powerful think tank in the area of public finance. This legacy should be consolidated as the Institute moves forward. In its working, there are several interfaces which an institution like NIPFP has to address. Some of these are interface with government, interface of the board of the institute with the director and faculty, interface of the director with faculty, interface of the institute with state governments, interface with the other institutions at home and abroad. Thus, NIPFP has to interact with several institutions. But the most important interface is with the government. This interface has two dimensions. One is financial, and the other is the scope and content of research the institution has to do. Financial aid is very much at the discretion of the government. But if government wants good research to be done, it has to be liberal. It must be noted that for an institution like NIPFP, the major client is government. In the context of research, there must be a good exchange of ideas, but ultimately it must be left to the discretion of NIPFP. For the institution to function efficiently, there must be a lot of give and take. For the smooth function, the other interfaces which I mentioned are also important. And these, however, these is not something unique to NIPFP. They are common to all educational institutions. But the importance of the interface between government and the institution is critical when the funding largely comes from the government. So far, things have gone on to the credit of government and NIPFP. This valuable tradition should be preserved. My own interest in public finance started with my study of the link between monetary policy and fiscal policy. The tangency point between the two is public borrowing. When government plans to borrow beyond what the market can absorb, the excess devolves on the central bank. In fact, in order to accommodate the higher level of borrowing, the SLR, that is the statutory liquidity ratio, was raised to 38% of deposits of banks during 1980s. Despite that, net RBI credit to government rose sharply, and the system of issue of ad hoc treasury bills led to monetization of fiscal deficit. Thus, we had twofold concerns. One is the quantum of fiscal deficit, and the second was the monetization of the fiscal deficit. As part of the reforms introduced in the early 1990s, the system of issue of ad hoc treasury bills was dispensed with. In the early 2000s, the Fiscal Responsibility and the Budget Management Act was passed, fixing a limit on fiscal deficit. The Act also, it is important to note, prohibited RBI entering the primary government bonds market. More recently, we have the new monetary policy framework of flexible inflation targeting. I would like to point out that such important changes can be introduced only when government actively interacts with academics and outside experts. As NIPFP moves to the second half of the first 100 years, it must have a clear idea of what it wants to do. Obviously, the issues to be studied will vary with time. Fiscal policy itself should respond to new issues. The function of government will change. More market does not mean less government, but different government. And meeting social infrastructure needs will become more dominant. In the emerging world, when might is right, will defense need more attention? The exchange between guns and butter, in this, will guns take a lead over butter? In any case, government expenditures will have to grow, so revenues also must. We need to move towards a tax structure, both direct and indirect, which has a buoyancy of greater than 1. Tinkering with rates every year must be given up. I do also hope that fiscal deficit comes down and settles at a level that is consistent with financial savings of households. More interactions with state government also become necessary. Finally, the task before the government, and therefore NIPFP, is huge. Becoming a developed country by 2047 is not an easy task. I am sure that NIPFP will play its role in achieving this target by offering sage advice to government. As of now, congratulations to all those associated with NIPFP for a job well done. Thank you very much.